Vakatakas on the northern side, western coast. Then Kadambas on the southern side, South Karnataka. Eastern side we have the Ikshvakus. This was a location. South of Odisha, modern Odisha. Normally, clear? Yeah, Ikshvakus. Is it fine? And in the southernmost side we had Cholas, Cheras and Pandyas. Since the early centuries of Christian era. Is it okay?
I looked up the map of 4th to 6th century.
Uh-huh.
So there was this tribe that defeated all of these. They were on the southern side and Cholas, Cheras was also there.
Yeah, that's why I'll explain again. Just understand, clear? Satvahans were ruling over the region of Deccan. That is why we have a debate with regard to origin of Satvahans. Puranas refer to them Andhras because they claim that they originated from the Andhra coast, eastern coast. But normally the inscriptions of Satvahans belonging to their face largely found on the western coast of India. It is largely accepted that they originate along the western coast and then they further expanded towards the eastern coast. So they covered the whole region, clear? Satvahans was in the early centuries of Christian era. Satvahans came to an end by 3rd century AD. Thereafter minor dynasties began to rule over this region. Just look into this here. On the western coast, Satvahans were followed by the Vakatakas. Towards the south of Vakatakas, we had Kadambas. And towards the eastern side, on the debris of Satvahans, we had Ikshvakus. Is it fine? And to the southern end, we had already had Cholas, Cheras and Pandyas. This region or these minor dynasties could not rule for long. Just after 1 century only, all of them were defeated and that resulted into the rule of the warlike tribes in the region of Deccan who are termed as Kalabharas. We don't know much about Kalabharas for 2 centuries, therefore the 2 centuries from 4th to 6th century in the context of Deccan period is known as Dark Age. The Kalabharas rule were ended by the Pallavas and the Chalukyas in the 6th century AD, the founder of Pallavas being Mahendravarman and the founder of Chalukyas being Pulakeshin I. The powerful rulers of these 2 dynasties being Narasimhavarman first, Pulakeshin second. Now it's clear? Okay, fine.
Can you explain the origin of Marathi?
Origin of?
Marathi language.
Marathi language. Still we have to come to Marathi language. Yeah, obviously Marathi language started as a Bhakti movement. Bhakti movement is a very prominent movement that led to the rise of several regional languages in India. And among those regional languages, Marathi language was one such. This language originated during Sultanate period. And that only resulted into the first prominent Marathi language or Marathi expert was Gyaneshwar. Gyaneshwar, who mastered the language of Marathi, and in Marathi translated Ramayana into Marathi version, which is known as Gyaneshwari, named after him. It is also titled as Bhavarth Deepika. And the trend started by Gyaneshwar was followed by large number of saints like Namdev, Eknath, Tukaram. All these saints are known as saints of Varkari saints because they believed in formless God. And there was one Dharkari saint known as Samath Ramdas. Samath Ramdas was the tutor of Shivaji. Clear? In medieval times, clear? And this whole religion that was established by Marathi experts in western part of India is known as Maharashtra Dharma. Welcome to Maharashtra Dharma. Maharashtra Dharma is a very prominent reason for the rise of Shivaji as well. Clear? Maharashtra Dharma has 2 groups of saints known as the Varkari saints and the Dharkari saints. In medieval India, Bhakti movement and Sufi movement led to rise of several regional languages in India. Urdu, and right now Urdu is in this debate also these days. Punjab University, yesterday only, Captain Amrinder Singh, the Chief Minister, has made it clear that Urdu is a pure Indian language. It cannot be clubbed with foreign languages. As was discussed, he declared in the paper that he will be discussing this issue with the Vice Chancellor of Punjab University as well. These are going on. Urdu is a pure Indian language. It's always termed in medieval times as Hindustani language. Hindustani is basically a mix of Hindi and Urdu.
So why every prominent people who wanted to establish a new language first translated Ramayana and Mahabharata?
Because these were the most popular texts. Everyone, masses always wanted to read Ramayana and Mahabharata, and that too in the local languages. So first of all, in order to propagate the language, they realized that if Ramayana or Mahabharata is translated, people will readily read those works because they knew about Mahabharata and Ramayana. But since they knew that it has been written to classical language, that is Sanskrit, they were beyond their comprehension. So they expected that they needed to read Ramayana and Mahabharata in their own tone so that they may feel connectivity also. And at the same time, they can learn about major things also. And that is why all prominent writers who began to promote the languages Most of them, the first work that was done was to translate not only Mahabharata, basically Ramayana, because Ramayana is considered to be a part of Indian culture. It's dedicated basically family customs, family values, clear? A wife must respect her husband in all circumstances, a son must obey the orders of his father under all circumstances, younger brother must obey the orders of elder brother. All these are themes of Ramayana. It's basically strong family bonding, and since it is household text, popular all across the world, people expected them that they should be translated into their own local language. That's what the first major dangta was, to translate Ramayana into, Kamman translated Ramayana into Tamil, Pampa, Punna, Ranna, all these works were, even Jainul Abidin got Ramayana and Mahabharata translated into Persian, because these were very popular texts by this time, since it was composed during Gupta period. Finally given shape by Valmiki in the Gupta period. Is it okay? Clear? So, we'll come to Marathi language. Clear? Medieval India is very important for vernacular languages, Marathi being one of them. Hindi, Punjabi, Urdu, Marathi, Assamese, even Telugu. We'll come to all these languages. Is it clear? So, coming to medieval India, today we're supposed to start with medieval India, core medieval India. And first of all, just understand, clear? In syllabus, normally it is mentioned, clear? Establishment of Gurian rule over India, factors behind Gurian success, consequences of Gurian success, and establishment of Delhi Sultanate. Clear? First of all, we'll understand it. They were not Gurian invasions. The Gurian invasions were preceded by a very prominent warrior who raided India 17 times, known as the Ghaznawide warrior, popularly named as Mahmud of Ghazni. Before we come on to arrival of these warriors to India, we'll understand about the scenario in Central and West Asia. Just understand. Clear? Geographically, Central Asia, if you look into this region is marked geographically by a grassland region, meaning thereby scrub region. Resources has never been found in abundant amount in historical times. Since resources were not found, these warriors who emerged in Central Asia, they traveled and they took expedition to large areas. They defeated the adjoining people in search of resources and wealth at this time, because whole Central Asia was not marked by any resources. When they traveled the whole Central Asian region and they reached up to the region of Gomal and Khyber Pass, that is located in the northwestern part of India, they had two areas to attack for resources. One region just south of this region was the region of Khorasan. Khorasan is identified with Persia, and Persia is identified with modern Iran. Clear? So first major region that became vulnerable to these Central Asian tribes was to attack the region of Persia or modern Iran, which was termed at this time as the region of Khorasan. Some of them tilted towards the southeastern area also, and by crossing the Indus Valley zone, they even attacked India as well. So India and Iran both began to have shared concern of attack by Central Asian tribesmen. These attacks became much more prominent with establishment of Islamic faith. Why? As we had discussed earlier also, the formal religion of Islam came into being in 622 AD when Prophet Muhammad migrated from Makkah to Medina, and thereafter large number of people began to accept this faith. The first region to readily accept Islamic faith was again the region of Persia or Khorasan, that is modern Iran. And when Iranians accepted the Islamic faith, they began to promote this faith with huge amount of zeal and enthusiasm. They already had resources, significant amount of resources, and with definite religion, they began to develop very fast. Since rapid development of Khorasan, Persia or Iran took place, it further became a center of attraction for Central Asian tribesmen who wandered in search of wealth and resources. Moreover, the Central Asian tribesmen in early medieval phase, they did not had any formal religion. They basically worshipped the forces of nature. As we all know, right from the days of Aryans, the Central Asian tribes had always worshipped the forces of nature. When they came to India also, they personified the natural forces and they began to worship them. Till this time, they worshipped the forces of nature. They never had any different religion. So Central Asian tribesmen became totally opposed to Islam as well. So Central Asian Turkish tribesmen who emerged from the region of Turkmenistan or Transoxiana, they were not followers of Islam. Make it very clear, they initially were followers of forces of nature, and they worshipped the forces of nature alone. They were antagonized, or they were totally opposed to any religion like Islam. So all Central Asian tribesmen began to attack Persia or Iran with two objectives. The primary objective was to get resources from Iran, and second objective that emerged after the establishment of Islam was to destroy the newly emerged religion of Islam as well. So Turkish tribesmen of Central Asia began to attack Persia or Iran in order to destroy the new religion of Islam, as well as to take resources from Iranian region. In order to defend the newly established faith of Islam, as well as to defend the resources of Persia or Iran, a very prominent dynasty was established in the 10th century in Iran, the dynasty being known as the Samanid dynasty. And this dynasty began to be headed by a very capable warrior named as Alaptagin. Alaptagin was given two responsibilities simultaneously. First, to defend Iran and its resources from Central Asian tribesmen, and second, to defend the religion of Islam against Central Asian tribesmen. Clear? He performed both these duties effectively till he died by the end of the 10th century. When Alaptagin died, Iranians or Persians began to look for another capable warrior who could perform this dual task effectively at this time. Clear? And when they began to search for a capable warrior, they failed to find any one of them among themselves. So they decided to search this capable warrior even in Central Asia as well. And at this time only, they coined a term, they coined a designation for any person who could take up the charge of Iran with dual responsibility to defend Islam as well as to defend the resources of Iran. And this title, indicating dual responsibility, came to be used, termed by Iranian as Ghazi. They began to look for a Ghazi, they began to look for a warrior who could perform this dual task. That is, he must have acted as religious missionary also, he must have acted as a political leader as well. In the search of this kind of Ghazi, they searched a capable warrior in a small village known as Ghazna or Ghazni in North Afghanistan. This person was named as Mahmud, and therefore Mahmud was invited by Iranians to take the charge of Samanid dynasty. It was a great opportunity for a warrior of a small village to take the charge of a large dynasty, Samanid dynasty in Iran. Mahmud readily accepted this thing. He got converted to Islamic faith immediately and took up the charge of Samanid dynasty exactly in the year 998 AD, that is almost by the end of the 10th century. And thereafter, from here only, he began to be referred to as Ghazi. Ghazi means both religious missionary as well as political leader of Iranian region at this time. This person, Mahmud of Ghazni, realized, since he was from Central Asia, Ghazni, he realized Iran can be safeguarded from Central Asian tribesmen permanently only when these Central Asian tribesmen are themselves converted into Islamic faith. With this objective, Mahmud of Ghazni, as Iranian leader, started a cultural movement in Iran which is known as Iranian Renaissance. In this Iranian Renaissance, he got Islamic works, including Holy Quran, to be translated into Persian and ethical principles of Islam to be highlighted, so that people getting accustomed with Islamic principles, they may get converted into Islamic faith. In this cultural Renaissance or movement, Mahmud of Ghazni in Iran was assisted by a great Persian poet named as Ferdowsi, and he wrote a monumental Persian work termed as Shahnama. And in this work, Shahnama, Ferdowsi highlighted the ethical principles of Islam, and this work was circulated among the Turkish tribesmen of Central Asia. When this work was read by the Turkish tribesmen, they got convinced about Islamic principle, and most of them accepted Islamic faith. The Islamized Turks, as they are known, the Islamized Turks, or the Turks who converted to Islamic faith, they became the strongest defenders and crusaders of Islam in coming time. Just because of this step, Iran was safeguarded from Central Asian tribesmen, and just because of this, Mahmud of Ghazni is considered to be a great ruler in West Asian history. But if we look into Indian history, Mahmud Ghazni is considered to be a mere plunderer. The reason was, while all these steps were taken by Mahmud Ghazni in Iran or Persia, he needed resources for this. He had invested huge amount of resources and he was continuously encountering the Central Asian tribesmen. In order to solve his financial crisis, he needed to supplement the resources of Iran. And at this time, when he was looking for this objective to supplement the resources of Iran, he got a very important work in his hand which acted as a treasure for him. And this work was none other than Kitab ul Hind or Tariq ul Hind, which had been written by Al-Biruni. When he read this work, he got exhaustive knowledge about India, because Al-Biruni touched upon every sphere of knowledge in his work Kitab ul Hind. In this work, he had mentioned that India had abundant amount of wealth, and by this time all this wealth had been confined to major temple premises, and that wealth could have solved problems of Iran. So Mahmud Ghazni rather got fascinated by the amount of wealth which was confined to India, primarily in the leading temple premises. He made up his mind to attack India. He made up his mind because of other informations also given in Kitab ul Hind. Al-Biruni had mentioned that society in India was clearly stratified, in which Brahmins occupied the top post, but Brahmins did not indulge in warfare activities. Clear? And when warfare activities took place, only one section that participated were Kshatriyas. So Mahmud Ghazni was not to encounter the whole collective Indian mass. He was to encounter only one section in society, that is the Kshatriyas. Vaishyas and Shudras also did not take part in warfare. He further got encouraged that he may attack India easily to extract resources. Moreover, Mahmud Ghazni, Al-Biruni even mentioned that the economic system in India was marked by feudal sentiments, in which there was no centralized force under any capable ruler. Rather, forces were pocketed and fragmented in different parts of India. Mahmud Ghazni further got encouraged because he realized that collective force may not be fielded against him. He can defeat the fragmented forces easily. By being encouraged by all the informations mentioned in Kitab ul Hind, Mahmud of Ghazni began to attack India from the beginning of 11th century AD. He came to power in 1998, and from the beginning of 11th century began to attack India. When he attacked India in the beginning of 11th century in 1001 AD, that is in the first year of 11th century AD, when he entered India from the region of Punjab, he witnessed an important dynasty in Punjab known as the Hindu Shahi dynasty, and the ruler of Shahi dynasty was named as Jaipal. Clear? Encounter took place between Mahmud of Ghazni and Hindu Shahi ruler Jaipal, in which Mahmud of Ghazni defeated Jaipal. Out of disgrace and guilt, Jaipal burnt himself publicly because he could not feel this disgrace of being defeated by Mahmud Ghazni. Jaipal was succeeded by his son and successor named as Anandpal. Clear? Clash took place between Mahmud of Ghazni and Anandpal when Mahmud of Ghazni attacked India again in 1008 AD, and a very prominent battle took place at a place known as Wahind. It is known as Battle of Wahind in 1008 AD, and in this battle again Mahmud of Ghazni defeated Anandpal, and Hindu Shahi resistance came to an end. Thereafter, Mahmud of Ghazni raided India 17 times almost uninterruptedly, primarily to extract resources from India, not to establish political authority. The climax of his attack being marked when he plundered the major temple of Somnath in Gujarat in 1025 AD. He took away large amount of resources from India till he died in the year 1030 AD, 1030 AD, to be succeeded by his son. His son was not as capable as Mahmud of Ghazni, and therefore Ghazni kingdom or Samanid dynasty began to decline and disintegrate in Iran as well. This was the first series of attack that took place, and by this time the Turks who attacked India, these Turks were not worshippers of nature. These Turks had been converted into Islamic faith, and they came with the zeal and enthusiasm also to propagate Islamic faith in India, which led to the victories against the feudal forces of Indian territory. Resources needs to be understood, the most important source being Shahnamas Firdausi, and again being Kitab ul Hind of Al-Biruni. Is this clear? First of all, the first phase, clear? Right, introduction first, right? Central and West Asian history. Central and West Asian history. From here we start with medieval India properly. Central and West Asian history. After the establishment of Islamic faith, after the establishment of the Islamic faith, of the Islamic faith, Islamic faith, clear? Right. The religion of Islam was formally established. The religion of Islam was formally established in the 7th century AD. In the 7th century AD, in West Asia. In West Asia. Right, this religion was readily accepted. This religion was readily accepted by the people of Khorasan or Persia, by the people of Khorasan. Khorasan and Persia same. Khorasan or Persia, which is identified with modern Iran. Iranians were the first one, not even the Saudis. Clear? Identified with modern Iran. Iran, not Iraq. Iraq was not there at that time. Clear? Modern Iran. Iraq was part of Iran at that time. Clear? It was a large area, Persia. Iran. Clear? Right. Consequently, Iranians began to progress. Consequently, Iranians began to progress at rapid pace. At rapid pace. As their life became organized, accompanied with abundant wealth, accompanied with abundant wealth, abundant wealth. Clear? Change paragraph. Right. However, Iranians were hard pressed. However, Iranians were hard pressed to defend, Iranians were hard pressed to defend their resources and territory, hard pressed to defend their resources and territory, as well as the newly accepted faith, as well as the newly established faith against the Central Asian tribesmen, against the Central Asian tribesmen. Clear? Right, these tribesmen were followers of the forces of nature, and they were opposed to Islamic faith. They were opposed to Islamic faith. Clear? Right. These tribesmen are also termed as the Turks. Turks are also termed as the Turks. As they originated, this region is important, as they originated in the region of, as they originated in the region of Transoxiana. Map must have been there with you. Region of Transoxiana. Transoxiana, identified with modern Turkmenistan. That is why they are known as Turks. It's a modern terminology. Nothing to do with Turkey and all. Clear? Identified with modern Turkmenistan. There's a huge paradox. Clear? All these warriors emerged from Turkmenistan. It became a hotbed of emerging warriors in Central Asia. But the greatest paradox is right now, among all the countries of Central Asia, the most peaceful country is Turkmenistan. Turkmenistan is the only country in the world which is not a member of any regional or global organization except United Nations. Turkmenistan is the only country in the world which is not a member of any regional organization, as it doesn't participate in any regional conflicts or global conflicts. The most peaceful country all across Central Asia. Clear? That is country. And this is a large country geographically speaking as compared to Tajikistan and Kazakhstan, which are smaller countries. Uzbekistan is almost similar to Tajikistan, Turkmenistan. It's a large country with its capital at Tashkent. Clear? But this country remains to be highly peaceful, geographically or historically termed as Transoxiana. Why Transoxiana? Beyond the river Oxus. Oxus was the branch of Amu Darya. Amu Darya in Syria originating from Aral Sea. Clear? All these are very prominent regions. So it is known as Turkmenistan. Therefore, we call them as Turks, young Turks. Clear? Right, Turkmenistan. Right. The Turkish tribesmen began to attack Khorasan or Iran, began to attack Khorasan or Persia. Khorasan or Persia, to extract resources as well as to defeat, the religion of Islam. The religion of Islam. There's one dimension is clear. Change paragraph. Clear? Right. Under such circumstances, Iranians established a dynasty in the 10th century. Known as the Samanid dynasty. To be headed by a capable warrior. Alaptagin. Clear? Right. He effectively defended Iran. As well as the religion of Islam, against the Turkish tribesmen, Turkish, against the Turkish tribesmen. Okay? Right. By the end of the 10th century, Alaptagin died, and Iranians began to look for a capable warrior. Who could perform the dual task? Of defending Iran as well as Islam, defending Iran as well as Islam, with the title of Ghazi, Ghazi, with the title of Ghazi, Ghazi, title of Ghazi. Right, in this quest, Iranians surged. In this quest, Iranians surged. A warrior, surged a warrior in a small village of Ghazni, a small village of Ghazni in North Afghanistan, Central Asia, small village of Ghazni in North Afghanistan, who was named as Mahmud, named as Mahmud, right, heading as medieval India, right, heading as medieval India, clear? Okay, Mahmud of Ghazni, clear? Right, right, Mahmud accepted the invitation of the Iranians, accepted the invitation of the Iranians, and began his rule from 998 AD. From here we have exact dates, from 998 AD. That is by the end of the 10th century, 998 AD. Clear? Change paragraph. Right. Since he was from Central Asia, comma, he was aware about the power and strength. He was aware about the power and strength of Turkish tribesmen, power and strength of Turkish tribesmen. Clear? Right. He started a cultural movement known as the Iranian Renaissance, to promote organized religion of Islam, Right, in this cultural movement, Mahmud of Ghazni, Mahmud of Ghazni was assisted by his court poet, Firdausi, who wrote a monumental Persian work, titled as Shahnama, which highlighted the ethical principles of Islam, Very important influence. Right, under the influence of this work, influence of this work, large number of Central Asian Turkish tribesmen, large number of Central Asian Turkish tribesmen got converted to Islam, got converted to Islam. Right here, one very important sentence. It must be noted. It must be noted that the Islamized Turks who got converted to Islam, that the Islamized Turks, Islamized, that the Islamized Turks became the greatest defenders, and crusaders of Islam, defenders and crusaders of Islam. Clear? Right. On account of such contributions, Mahmud of Ghazni is regarded as a great ruler in West Asian history. Clear? Right, next sentence. However, his image in Indian history, is only of a plunderer, Clear? Change paragraph. Right. Mahmud of Ghazni needed huge amount of resources to deal with financial crisis in Iran. He had invested huge amount in Iran. And at this critical time, he got hold of a literary work. That is why it's very important. Hold of a literary work. Right, comma, with inverted comma. Work Kitab-ul-Hind, written by Al-Biruni, only to satisfy his intellectual quest. Kitab-ul-Hind, written by Al-Biruni. Right, some content, we have already discussed this work. Right, in this work, Al-Biruni has comprehensively mentioned, about abundant wealth in India, mostly confined to the leading temples, Clear? Right. Mahmud Ghazni got fascinated about the quantum of wealth, in India. Clear? Change paragraph. Right. Al-Biruni also mentioned, sometimes knowledge becomes counterproductive. Al-Biruni also mentioned about the social structure of India. Social structure of India. In which the only community entitled, 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 at least theoretically, the only community entitled, at least theoretically, not practically, at least theoretically, to fight war, was Kshatriya community. All the sections were not supposed to fight. Kshatriya community. Clear? Right. Such information gave confidence to Mahmud of Ghazni. That collective front will not be presented against him. Collective front will not be presented against him in India. Presented against him in India. Clear? Another thing to boost his confidence. Right, next paragraph. Right, Al-Biruni has even mentioned, has mentioned that economically India was marked by feudal structure, whereby central authority lagged, large standing force, they depended on feudal lords, central authority lagged, L-A-C-K-D, lagged, large standing force. Quite obviously, feudalism marked by weak central authority, clear. Right, this further boosted the confidence of Mahmud of Ghazni. To attack India. Factors are clear, and all these are very valid, mentioned by Al-Biruni. Al-Biruni did not write this work for Mahmud of Ghazni. He wrote to satisfy his own intellectual request. And when Mahmud of Ghazni came to northwestern part of India, the first thing that he did was he captured Al-Biruni. He wanted this person with him because he knew he will guide the way to all leading temples, because he knew about everything about India. So Al-Biruni was first captured by Mahmud of Ghazni. Al-Biruni had to come along with him because he knew about all the territories of India, because he had roamed across Indian territory, and then he completely wrote about a comprehensive work, that is Kitab-ul-Hind. Clear? Right, on next paragraph. Right, on account of these factors, Mahmud of Ghazni raided Indian territory 17 times, 17. Indian territory 17 times, with sole objective to extract Indian wealth, not to acquire any territory. Indian wealth. Clear? Right. His first expedition in 1001 AD, just in the beginning of 11th century. He came to power in 998. His first expedition, 1001 AD, was resisted by resisted by a Hindu Shahi ruler. Resisted by a Hindu Shahi ruler. Hindu Shahi ruler. Jaipal. Jaipal in the northwestern region. Jaipal in the northwestern region. Clear? Right. In this military encounter, Jaipal was defeated. Jaipal was defeated. And he burned himself alive. And he burnt himself alive out of disgrace. Out of disgrace. Okay? Right thereafter, Hindu Shahi dynasty began to be headed by Hindu Shahi dynasty began to be headed by his son and successor began to be headed by his son and successor Anandpal, son and successor Anandpal, who fought against Mahmud of Ghazni, fought against Mahmud of Ghazni in the battle of Wahind. In the battle of Wahind in 1008 AD. Where is Wahind located? Presently? Gujarat. Mahmud of Ghazni never came through Gujarat. Make it very clear. This is also very important. Mahmud of Ghazni raided 17 times only through Punjab. Clear? There's a difference between. Clear? Muhammad Ghori came through Gujarat. But when he came through Gujarat, initially Muhammad Ghori was defeated by the ruler of Gujarat. Clear? Thereafter he also changed his route. He had began to attack India through Punjab. Clear? So most of the invaders raided India through northwestern region of Punjab. Wahind is located presently in Pakistan. Clear? This region is important. If you have watched the movie Sarfarosh of Amir Khan, this place is mentioned in that movie, Wahind. Clear? Because the whole palace at the time of partition that is then mentioned in the movie headed by Nasruddin Shah, it was located in the region of Wahind, whereby the people came from Wahind and they extend arms on the borders through camels. Clear? Wahind is mentioned in that movie. Clear? Wahind is a very prominent location in Pakistan. Clear? Eastern part of Pakistan, just crossing the border. Clear? Here battle took place between Muhammad Ghori and Anandpal. Right? In this battle, Anandpal was defeated. Anandpal was defeated. That ended resistance against Mahmud Ghazni. Resistance against Mahmud Ghazni. Clear? Change paragraph. Right. The target of attack by Mahmud Ghazni were leading temples of India. Including the temple of Somnath, Prabhas Patan, South Gujarat, including the temple of Somnath, attacked in 1025 AD, 1025 AD. Very clear? Right. Mahmud Ghazni died in 1030 AD, 1030 AD, and was succeeded by his son and was succeeded by his son Masood, succeeded by his son Masood, who proved to be a weak ruler, who proved to be a weak ruler. Clear? Right, during his reign, ambitious rulers began to emerge. Ambitious rulers began to emerge. And Samanid dynasty was replaced by the Seljuk dynasty in Iran. Seljuk dynasty in Iran. Clear? Due to ambitious nature, right? Even this dynasty could not continue for long. Even this dynasty could not continue for long, and got bifurcated into two branches. Very important to understand. Into two branches. Clear? Right. The main branch of this dynasty, began to rule from Iran, the original territory. The main branch of this dynasty began to rule from Iran, to be termed as the Khwarizmi dynasty. Clear? That at the same time, another branch began to rule. Another branch, minor branch, not the parent one. Another branch began to rule from the region of Ghur in North Afghanistan. From the region of Ghur in North Afghanistan. To be termed as the Ghurid dynasty, named after the region, to be termed as the Ghurid dynasty. Clear? Change paragraph. Right. The rulers of the two contemporary dynasties. The rulers of the two contemporary dynasties began to fight among themselves. To gain mastery over the fertile region. Fertile region of Transoxiana. Why it is fertile? Two rivers, Doab region, clear? Transoxiana, which was confined between two rivers. We had discussed yesterday, confined between two rivers. Amu Darya, two rivers, Amu Darya and Sir Darya. We had located those rivers, Amu Darya and Sir Darya, originating from the Aral Sea. Doab region was always fertile, clear? Originating from the Aral Sea, clear? Right. In this contest, to gain mastery over Transoxiana, The Khwarizmi rulers. The Khwarizmi rulers. Rulers from Iran. The Khwarizmi rulers defeated the Ghurid rulers. Defeated the Ghurid rulers. Clear? Ghurid rulers. Right. Consequently, the Central Asian ambition to gain mastery over Transoxiana, consequently, the Central Asian ambition of the Ghurid rulers, got defeated. They could not expand towards Central Asia. Got defeated. And they were forced to divert their attention. And they were forced to divert their attention towards their south. Towards their south. Corresponding with northwestern part of Indian subcontinent. Corresponding with northwestern part of Indian subcontinent. Background is clear. Why they came to India? Clear. Change paragraph. Right. In the second half of the 12th century AD, in the second half of the 12th century AD, a prominent Ghurid ruler, Muhammad bin Sam, a prominent Ghurid ruler, Muhammad bin Sam, began to attack India. Now, write the difference in approach. Began to attack India. Primarily to establish, quite distinct from Mahmud Ghazni, primarily to establish territorial control, not to extract resources, territorial control, as he could not expand towards Central Asia, as he could not expand towards Central Asia. Clear? Right. Muhammad bin Sam, popularly known as Muhammad Ghuri. Muhammad bin Sam, popularly known as Muhammad Ghuri, since he belonged to Ghuri dynasty, known as Muhammad Ghuri, attacked India through Gujarat. He changed his approach. Attacked India through Gujarat in 1173 AD, the first venture. 1173 AD. Clear? Right. However, a local ruler of Gujarat, Bhima II, he also defeated Prithviraj Chauhan. A local ruler of Gujarat, Bhima II, defeated Muhammad Ghuri, Muhammad bin Sam, defeated Muhammad Ghuri, and he was forced to retreat back. He was forced to retreat back. Change paragraph. Right, Muhammad Ghuri changed his approach. And attacked India through Punjab this time. Attacked India through Punjab. After 5 years in 1178 AD. After 5 years in 1178 AD. Clear? This was similar to the approach of Mahmud of Ghazni. that in this attack, Muhammad Ghori was successful. Muhammad Ghori was successful in establishing control over, the regions of Multan and Uch, both in Pakistan right now. Regions of Multan and Uch, unified Punjab. Multan and Uch. It was in 1178. Now just understand from here. You have understood the background, how they came to India. First of all, Mahmud Ghazni, then Muhammad Ghori. There's difference in approach and strategy, clear? Mahmud Ghazni raided India with primary objective to extract resources. Muhammad Ghori came to India not to extract resources but to establish political rule over India. There was a difference in strategy also. Mahmud Ghazni raided 17 times only through Punjab. Muhammad Ghori first raided India through Gujarat but had to face defeat by Bhima II. Thereafter he again began to attack India through Punjab. In 1178 he was able to overrun Multan and Uch in northwestern part of India. Difference is he wanted to establish political rule because he knew he cannot extend towards Central Asia because of a strong command over Central Asia by Khwarizmi rulers ruling from Iran. Clear? Therefore, he had to divert his attention towards India. These were developments in the second half of the 12th century AD. Meanwhile, just understand, in the earlier classes in early medieval India, we had discussed while all these attacks, invasions and extraction of resources were going on, a very important development took place in the northern and central part of India. And this development was establishment of or emergence of a military aristocracy among the Kshatriya community to be known as the Rajputs. And the most acceptable theory related to origin of Rajput is that 4 prominent Rajput clans emerged from an Agni Kut or a fire pit at Mount Abu, who are known as Agni Kul Rajputs, the Pratiharas, the Parmars, the Chalukyas, the Chahamanas or the Chauhans. Clear? At the same time, 3 other Rajput clans emerged in central and northern part of India. They were Chandelas of Bundelkhand, Tomars of Delhi, Gahdawalas of Kannauj. Clear? So altogether several Rajput clans emerged in northern and central part of India, and they were supposed to defend India and its resources from these possible foreign invaders attacking India from northwestern side. That is why it is not a big surprise that we don't come across the origin of Rajputs in Deccan and southern part of India. The origin of Rajputs confined only to northern and central part of India because this was the major belt which was vulnerable to any invader coming from northwestern side of India. So we don't have even now any trace of Rajputs in Deccan and southern part of India. There were warriors, but they are never designated as Rajputs. Origin, confinement of Rajputs are there only in northern and central part of India. Altogether, prominent 7 clans began to rule in different parts of Indian territory, and they were supposed not only to rule, but even to defend India against possible invaders. While Muhammad bin Sam or Muhammad Ghori was overrunning the region of Multan and Uch in 1178, a young lad of just 14 years ascended the Chauhan throne at Ajmer. This person was named as Prithvi Raj Chauhan, who was equally ambitious like Muhammad bin Sam. And after establishing control over the large region of Ajmer, Prithvi Raj Chauhan even wanted to extend towards the northwestern side of India. So clash between Muhammad Ghori and Prithvi Raj Chauhan almost became inevitable, and this clash started with rival claim put forward by both the person on a common territory in Punjab. That territory is known as Tabar Hind. Tabar Hind is identified with modern Bhatinda in Punjab. Both wanted to have control over Bhatinda in Punjab, and clash almost became inevitable. The first military clash between Prithvi Raj Chauhan and Muhammad Ghori took place in the battlefield of Tarain near Delhi in 1191 AD. And in this battle, Prithvi Raj Chauhan was supported by all Rajput clans of northern and central India, and that enabled him to defeat Muhammad Ghori at this time. Muhammad Ghori had to return back again from India at this time. He went back to Ghur, that is in northern part of Afghanistan. But here, Prithviraj Chauhan also committed a mistake out of his inexperience. He could have properly safeguarded the northwestern part of India to prohibit the arrival of Muhammad bin Sam again. But rather than consolidating his control over the region of Punjab, Prithviraj Chauhan returned back to Ajmer, leaving the area unguarded again. Muhammad bin Sam again replanned his strategy, again entered India in the very next year 1192 and challenged Prithviraj Chauhan for decisive battle. This second encounter also took place in the same battlefield of Tarain in 1192. But by this time, Rajput equations in northern and central part of India had been seriously altered, and that enabled Muhammad bin Sam to defeat Prithviraj Chauhan in the so-called battle known as the Second Battle of Tarain. You got this question yesterday only, clear? That is, what were the internal factors, that is division among the rulers of India, that provided ample scope for Central Asian warriors to establish their rule over India. One such issue was related to a personal life of Prithviraj Chauhan, and that was related to his affair with Rajput princess Sanyogita. We'll come to that, clear? Right, next paragraph, clear? Right, meanwhile, when Muhammad Ghori was overrunning Multan and Uch, was overrunning Multan and Uch, a young lad, LAD, a young lad of just 14 years, Prithviraj, a young lad of just 14 years, Prithviraj ascended the Chauhan throne at Ajmer. Chauhan's rule from Ajmer. At Ajmer. Clear? Right, he was highly ambitious. And decided to extend his control. Towards the northwestern region of India. Clear? Right. This made the clash between Muhammad Ghori and Prithviraj Chauhan. Almost inevitable. Both were ambitious. Almost inevitable. Clear? Right. The clash started due to rival claim over the region of Tabar Hind, which is identified with modern Bhatinda in Punjab. Clear? Tabar Hind, identified with modern Bhatinda in Punjab. Right, the first military clash between two ambitious warriors. The first military clash between two ambitious warriors took place in the battlefield of Tarain near Delhi. near Delhi in 1191. In 1191 AD. Right, in this military clash, Muhammad Ghori was defeated and forced to retreat back to Central Asia. Clear. Right. However, Prithviraj Chauhan returned back to Ajmer without consolidating his control, over Punjab. Punjab, clear? Change paragraph. Right, Muhammad Ghori replanned his strategy. He had no choice. He could not expand towards Central Asia. Replanned his strategy and again entered Indian territory. To challenge Prithviraj Chauhan. Clear? Right. The second military clash took place. In the same battleground of Tarain. In 1192 AD. Right. In this military clash, Prithviraj Chauhan was defeated, which marked the end of effective Rajput resistance. Write these words. Marked the end of effective Rajput resistance against the Turks, the Ghurids. Against the Turks. Change paragraph. Right. The reason which led to the defeat of Prithviraj Chauhan was due to personal relationship. Clear? Right. Prithviraj Chauhan fell into love. With a Rajput princess, Sanyogita. Who belonged to the Kahadwala clan of Kannauj. CLAN, clan of Kannauj. Clear? Right, both Prithviraj Chauhan and Sanyogita, eloped together. ELOPED. Eloped together, which was against the wish of the Gahadawla ruler. Against the wish of the Gahadawla ruler. Jaichand, the father of Sanyukta, ruler Jaichand. Clear? Jaichand, right? Due to this act, several Rajput clans decided not to support Prithviraj Chauhan, in the coming struggle. It was considered to be against Rajput honor, against coming struggle. Clear? Right. Due to this changed Rajput equation, Prithviraj Chauhan was defeated. Due to this changed Rajput equation, Prithviraj Chauhan equation, EQUATION, Prithviraj Chauhan was defeated. And this whole episode is mentioned. By the court poet of Prithviraj Chauhan. Chand Bardai, in his work, Prithviraj Raso, in Hindi language. It marks the beginning of Hindi language in India. In Hindi language. Right. It is a biographical account. Historiography is important. That needs to be taken with caution. In historiography. Because there are some things which cannot be accepted in historiography. Clear? Right. According to this work, Prithviraj Chauhan was taken to Central Asia. By Muhammad Ghori. Where his body was chopped off. CHOPPED, chopped off into 24 pieces. Clear? Right. However, this account seems to be questionable. As the science of numismatics gives another picture. Coins gives another picture. Right, the coins found at Ajmer. Mentions the name of Muhammad bin Sam on the one side mentions the name of Muhammad bin Sam on the one side and Prithviraj Chauhan on the other side. Prithviraj Chauhan on the other side. Clear? Like this indicate that Prithviraj Chauhan continued to rule. Prithviraj Chauhan continued to rule over Ajmer with consent of Muhammad Ghori. Numismatics are more relevant than literary sources. We got this question yesterday also. Archaeological sources are more relevant than literary sources. Clear? This is the story. Clear? There's another story is also mentioned in Chandrabarda in Prithviraj also.
He killed this man.
Killed this man, yeah. It is even mentioned that he even killed Muhammad bin Sam also. Clear? Because he had a very important wand which is known as the Shabd wand. Shabd wand means he only had to utter the word. And if after uttering the word, the wand was supposed to hit the same target. Clear? All these stories are mentioned in Prithviraj. That was basically a glowing account for his patron. That is why we need to be more cautious while dealing with historiography when we take biographical accounts, because biographical accounts are basically written to please the patrons. Clear? Therefore, it was basically to please the patrons. Power and glory was shown, and he said that just because of his power and glory, he went to Central Asia and he showed his bravery there also when his body was being chopped off into 24 pieces. But archaeological evidences, numismatics indicate another story altogether. He continued to rule over Ajmer because coins mentions the name of both in the obverse and reverse direction, that is Muhammad bin Sam as well as Prithviraj Chauhan, and they are considered to be more authentic than literary sources. Clear? This development took place, but meanwhile, just understand, after winning the battle in the second battle of Tarain in 1192, one thing is true, that Muhammad Ghori did not stay back in India. Clear? Muhammad Ghori returned back to his hometown, that is Ghur in Central Asia. But while he was moving away from India, Muhammad Ghori deputed his trusted slave to look after his Indian territory and possession. This trusted slave of Muhammad Ghori was Qutb ud-Din Aibak. Qutb ud-Din Aibak was supposed to look after the possession of Muhammad Ghori in Indian territory. While leaving the extreme northwestern part of India, that is Punjab, he deputed his another slave, and that slave deputed by Muhammad Ghori was named as Kubacha, meaning thereby Muhammad Ghori was dividing all his territorial possession among his trusted slaves before he reached up to his own hometown, that is Ghor. He made these arrangements, returned back to Ghor at this time. Clear? Meanwhile, when Qutb ud-Din Aibak was ruling over India, he was almost considered to be subordinate to Kubacha, because Kubacha was given much more sensitive region, that is the northwestern region of India, acted as an intermediary between the ultimate master, that is Muhammad Ghor in Ghor, and Qutb ud-Din Aibak in India. So almost Qutb ud-Din Aibak was subordinate to Kubacha in India. Meanwhile, at the same time when Qutb ud-Din Aibak began to rule, the one person that began to have feeling of guilt, that person was none other than the Gahadawala ruler Jaichand. He realized if he could have supported Muhammad Prithviraj Chauhan in the battle of Tarain, the story could have been something different. Jaichand therefore began to oppose Qutb ud-Din Aibak. Qutb ud-Din Aibak therefore requested his master Muhammad Ghori to return back to India again to face this Rajput resistance. Muhammad Ghori again returned back to India just after a few months only, and another military clash took place between Turks and the Rajputs. This battle took place again near Delhi in the battlefield of Chandawar in 1194. This battle of Chandawar was between Rajput ruler Jaichand and Turkish ruler Muhammad Ghori. In this battle again, Muhammad Ghori defeated Jaichand. That marked the end of complete Rajput resistance in India. Make one thing clear, historians make it clear. Effective Rajput resistance came to an end with second battle of Tarain. Complete Rajput resistance came to an end with battle of Chandawar in 1194 AD. Clear? This marked the end of Rajput resistance in India. After this victory again, Muhammad Ghori returned back to Central Asia, that is Ghor. After some time, Qutb ud-Din Aibak began to face another challenge, and that challenge was that Qutb ud-Din Aibak's rule began to be opposed by a very strong and warlike tribes in Punjab. These tribes were known as the Khokars in Punjab. Qutb ud-Din Aibak was not strong enough to deal with this Khokars rebellion also. he again invited his master Muhammad Ghori from Ghur in Central Asia. Muhammad Ghori again came back to India in the beginning of 13th century, and by 1205, he brutally suppressed the Khokars of Punjab, and this venture again became successful. After this successful expedition, Muhammad Ghori again decided to return back to Ghur. But this time, while he was living in Indian territory on the banks of river Jhelum in the northwestern part of India, he was surprisingly attacked by his close confidant only, and he attacked and assassinated Muhammad Ghori on the banks of river Jhelum in 1206. This marked the end of Muhammad Ghori. Meanwhile, as soon as Muhammad Ghori died, Kubacha tried to establish control over India, as he considered Qutbuddin Aibak to be his subordinate. But Qutbuddin Aibak wanted to rule independently, and therefore with large military force, Qutbuddin Aibak went to the northwestern part of India, defeated Kubacha. This defeat of Kubacha is very significant because he cut all connection with Central Asia from here, and therefore established an independent rule in India, and that marked the beginning of a large empire in course of time, which is termed in Sanskrit as Sultanate. And since he began to rule over this large empire Sultanate from its headquarters at Delhi, this is always termed as Delhi Sultanate. And in Delhi Sultanate, Qutbuddin Aibak, being the slave of his master, established the first dynasty, and that dynasty itself is known as the slave dynasty, Mamluk dynasty, because they were also known as Mamluks in Central Asia. So first dynasty to be established in Delhi Sultanate was slave dynasty from the year 1206, which continued till 1526. This was the background for the establishment of Delhi Sultanate. Now we'll go into the main topic of historiography, why Ghurians became successful in India, and what were the implications of Ghurian success over India as topics mentioned in our syllabus. Clear? This is clear. To and fro movement of Muhammad Ghori between India and Central Asia. Please.
To corroborate the rule of Prithviraj Chauhan, Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti was the contemporary of the Mughal only. So are there not any references in Chishti silsila also?
No. Because the reason again I'll let you know. He came with Muhammad Ghori, there's no doubt. Clear? And when he came in 1191, he witnessed a sanguinary battle. Large number of people died in the battleground at Tarain. He was a person of peaceful disposition. Clear? He never could witness all these bloody battles that were going on. Therefore, he never sided either with Prithviraj Chauhan or with Muhammad Ghori. Since he got highly disillusioned with the bloodbath that was going on here, he decided to shift from Delhi. Delhi became the battleground, and he shifted to Ajmer. In Ajmer, he began to follow spiritualism. Spiritualism, that is tasawwuf, to get connected with ultimate divinity, rather than to mention anything that is taking place related to battle. So he has not written anything about political developments. And not only Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti, all the saints of Chishti Silsila never wrote anything about political history. None of them. Clear? In fact, they maintained a quite large distance from the royal courts. None of them. Clear? In fact, whenever any person wanted to take their blessings also, they were supposed to visit the places in the rural areas. The saints never came to the court. Clear? And that is a very important thing. Chishti saints maintained a life of simplicity. That is why, since they maintained a life of simplicity, they were able to gain popularity among masses. Clear? This is quite contrast to another silsila which was established known as Suravardi silsila. They had close connectivity with the royal court. They even took administrative posts, clear, under the sultans of Delhi. But none of the Chishti saints, they always kept themselves aloof from the royal courts. So none of them have mentioned about anything. In fact, most of the time they gave curse to sultans of Delhi. Clear? Rather than blessing, they gave curse also to sultans of Delhi. Clear? So none of them. So he has never mentioned about anything about Prithviraj Chauhan or about Muhammad Ghori. Clear? So no information from Chishti records. It's clear? Okay. So this was to and fro movement of Muhammad Ghori. Right? Next paragraph. What was the last sentence that we wrote? Last sentence. Right, next paragraph. After winning the battle of the Rhine, Muhammad Ghori decided to proceed towards Ghur, Central Asia, North Afghanistan, proceed towards Ghur. Right. Meanwhile, he handed over his Indian possession handed over his Indian possession to his trusted slave, Kutubuddin Aibak, trusted slave, Kutubuddin Aibak. Clear? Right. At the same time, he handed the sensitive northwestern part of India, to another slave, Kobacha. Slave Kobacha, clear? Right. In fact, Kobacha acted as a link between India and Central Asia, and tried to exert control over Kutubuddin Aibak. Clear? Change paragraph. That Kutubuddin Aibak began to be opposed by the Rajput ruler Jaichand, that convinced him to invite his master, Muhammad Ghori. Clear? Right. This resulted into another military clash at Chandawar, again near Delhi. Military clash at Chandawar near Delhi in 1194, just after 2 years. 1194, in which Muhammad Ghori defeated Jaichand. Which marked the complete end of Rajput resistance. Clear? Change paragraph. Right. By the beginning of the 13th century, after 1200, Kutubuddin Aibak faced the revolt of a warlike tribe, WAR-LIK, revolt of warlike tribe from Punjab, by the Khokars, very important tribe, from Punjab by the Khokars. Right, this convinced Kutubuddin Aibak to invite his master again. And Muhammad Ghori brutally suppressed the Khokars brutally suppressed the Khokars in 1205. Right, however, while returning back to Central Asia, while returning back to Central Asia, Muhammad Ghori was assassinated in a surprise attack. There was a person named as Afridi, clear, was brutally assassinated in a surprise attack on the banks of the river Jhelum, Punjab, on the banks of the river Jhelum. Clear? Jhelum. On the banks of the river Jhelum in 1206. Write the date also. In 1206. In 1206. Change paragraph. Right, clear? Right. Right. Kubacha in the northwestern region. Kubacha in the northwestern region tried to exert control over Indian mainland, which was not acceptable to Qutb-ud-Din Aibak. Qutb-ud-Din Aibak. Clear? Right. This led to a military clash in which Qutb-ud-Din Aibak defeated Kubacha. Defeated Kubacha and ended all connection with Central Asia. Very important, significant. Okay? Right. This facilitated him to start his independent rule. With Delhi as base. Which got transformed into a large empire. Termed in Persian as Sultanate. With its capital at Delhi. That is why it's known as Delhi Sultanate. We'll come to Delhi Sultanate separately, clear? 1206 to 1526. That is another story, clear? Meanwhile, from our examination point of view, clear? Historiography related to all these developments that we discussed, clear? From where we come to know what are the theses of historians, clear? First of all, we will understand which were the potential factors that led to Ghorian success in India against capable warriors who were none other than Rajputs in the northern and central part of India, clear? There are different schools of historiography who had conducted research to understand and comprehend the major factors behind Ghorian success in India. The first scholar to work in this domain to understand and comprehend the factors behind Ghorian success was the political historian of India, Jadunath Sarkar. We'll come across this name throughout medieval India because wherever political factors are concerned, the first person who has played a pioneering role has been Jadunath Sarkar, even though his account is considered to be highly biased by other historians of India. What are the claims of Jadunath Sarkar? First of all, Jaduna Sarkar has tried to explain the factors behind Gurian success as the first major thing to be in form of the will of the God or the divine will. The reason was that by that time when Turkish warriors got converted into Islamic faith, at this time they wanted to unite large number of people following Islamic faith and then to propagate this faith to other parts of the world as well, since they considered to be a divine duty to propagate Islamic faith among all the sections of the world as a divine gesture, as according to the will of the God. They considered it imperative to conquer the territories as well as the people, so that with conquest of territory and people, they will be able to propagate the principles of Islamic faith, which was considered to be the divine duty or the will of the God. Since it was a divine duty, another factor highlighted by Jaduna Sarkar was, in order to fulfill this divine duty, they exhibited huge amount of zeal, enthusiasm and commitment. Clear? Since they came to India with a missionary zeal that they wanted to conquer not only the territory of India, but they wanted to conquer the people of India and then to force the people of India to accept Islamic faith. This resulted into a big development at this time. So Jaduna Sarkar claims that first of all it was the will of the God that prompted them to to come to India with full commitment, because they wanted to fulfill it as a religious duty. These are two prominent factors given from the perspective of the Turks that made them successful in India. But at the same time, Jaduna Sarkar also highlights certain limitations among the existing warrior classes in India, including the Rajputs in this country. Clear? First thing that he highlighted was that there were mutual jealousies and disunity among the Rajputs in India. The reason was that at the time when collective front was to be given by all Rajput warriors, several Rajput clans led by Jachan did not participate in the second battle of the Rhine, and mutual jealousy and disunity became a major factor for the defeat of Rajputs by the Turkish warriors in India. And he highlights another factor associated with Rajputs responsible for the defeat, and that factor, which is highly disputed, is that Rajputs in India were largely addicted to the consumption of wine. Clear? This is a reason given by Jaduna Sarkar that since most of the Rajput warriors were addicted to wine, the zeal and enthusiasm along with commitment which was required to defeat the Gorians, which was demonstrated by them, could not be demonstrated by the Rajput warriors in India, and this also is highlighted by Jaduna Sarkar as a major factor for Gorian success in India. So two factors along with Gorians: one is the will of God, that is the divine duty, which exhibited zeal, enthusiasm and commitment. Two factors from the sides of the Rajput: one was mutual jealousy and disunity, which is quite logical, and fourth major factor was the addiction to wine. It is taken as a serious reason by Jaduna Sarkar. This is one school of thought that explains the reasons behind Gorian success in India, but it is not considered to be totally relevant. Only the will of God could not result them to leave their territory and to conquer Indian territory for a longer period of time. Zeal commitment was not because of religious duty. Zeal commitment was basically to extend territorial towards India, because Ghurids could not extend in Central Asia due to Khwarizmi Road. This also is taken as a reason to criticize the theory given by Jaduna Sarkar. Moreover, the Jaduna theory, that is, Rajputs were marked by disunity and lack of commitment. This is also disputed, because whenever they fought with huge amount of commitment, they fought with huge amount of zeal to defeat the Turkish warriors. Few numbers cannot decide the fate. Clear? Therefore, after understanding the limitations given by Jaduna Sarkar, the most important authority to have conducted research and to comprehend the reasons behind Gorian success has been Professor Muhammad Habib. Clear? Marxist scholar who is still considered to be the greatest authority on Sultanate history. His son being considered to be the greatest authority on Mughal history, that is Irfan Habib. Professor Muhammad Habib conducted a sincere research, or rather thorough research, to understand the factors behind Gorian success, and he has divided all these factors into two broad categories. First category is socio-cultural factor, economic factors that led to Gorian success, and second is scientific and technological factors that led to Gorian success over India. What are socio-economic factors? According to Professor Muhammad Habib, it has made clear society in early medieval phase was divided into 4 varnas, that is Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudra. It cannot be denied that the credit, or rather the responsibility to fight battle, was given only to Kshatriyas, and that too within Kshatriyas in early medieval India given to subsection, that is the Rajputs. In the battle crown, Professor Muhammad Habib highlights that even Rajput warriors had to fetch water also, to procure food also, because they could not consume food and water even from the hands of the Shudras and other categories. That led to huge burden on them. So rather than only fighting, which was done by the Turks, they had to procure every basic necessities apart from fighting in the battleground. That diffused their energy and enthusiasm, which became a major factor for the defeat. And when they were fighting, Brahmins, Vaishyas and Shudra never cared for this battlefield, and therefore it resulted into defeat of Kshatriyas against the Turks in India. This is one social factor. Second factor, economic factor, is Professor Muhammad Habib highlights that Indian economy was marked by strong feudal sentiments, and since feudal sentiments were very high, the central authority, even Rajputs, depended on the feudal or Samantas to supply military forces. Even when Samantas supplied the military forces, these military forces came from different pockets of territories. The most important challenge was to coordinate among those military forces, meaning thereby feudal forces can never be marked by centralized authority, unity of command and unity of direction. In contrast to this feudal forces, there was complete unity of command, unity of direction, led by one person who came to India, that is Muhammad Ghori, and therefore this common concern economic factor was also a major factor for the defeat of Rajputs in India. So socio-economic factors highlighted by Professor Muhammad Habib to explain the defeat of the Rajputs. Much more important than socio-economic was, according to Professor Muhammad Habib, scientific and technological factors. Clear? And this is the major factor highlighted by him, the major factor being the Turks who came from Central Asia. The first important thing with which they came to India were quality horses. Clear? And these quality horses provided them with sufficient speed and mobility along with swiftness, and they encountered the relatively static forces in India. Even though few horses were there with Rajputs, but they were not as powerful horses and trained horses as horses came from Central Asia. So with high speed and rapidity marked by horses of Central Asia, the static Indian forces could not contest for long. This is one scientific factor. Much more important than this beast is, according to Professor Muhammad, 2 technological equipments that enabled the defeat of Rajputs in India. And these 2 important equipments were, first of all, the iron stirrup used by the Turkish warriors in Central Asia and India, and another was important technological thing, that is the horseshoes. Now just understand, when Central Asian warriors were capable horsemen, first of all what they did was they got horseshoes placed at the toe of the horses, whereby iron horseshoes were placed on the toe, which were tied with the toes through nails, so that horses could run even in rough topography with same speed and rapidity, meaning thereby irrespective of topography and terrain, horses could run very fast because they had iron horseshoe attached with the legs, which did not affect their speed and rapidity. And along with horseshoes, there were iron stirrup, meaning thereby the balancing things for the horsemen, so that with this iron stirrup, they can either enhance the speed of the horses, or they could even reduce the speed of the horses, which acted almost like a gear in a vehicle. Clear? All this with the speed and rapidity, horseshoes and iron stirrup. When Turks came to India, the static Indian forces could not withstand their aggression, and these static Indian forces got easily defeated. So 2 broad factors highlighted by Professor Muhammad Habib is the socio-economic factors, and second being scientific and technological factors. We'll write about this school of Jaduna Sakar as well, Professor Muhammad Habib as well. Clear? Right heading, this is very important for examination. Right, factors behind the Ghorian success. There's a topic mentioned in our syllabus explicitly. Factors behind the Ghorian success. Behind the Ghorian success. Ghurin. Behind the Ghorian success. Do you know about horseshoes? Do you know about horseshoes? Why horseshoes important even now? Horseshoes are even important even now. Why? Where are horseshoes used? In front of the house. Why? Why horseshoes are used in front of the house? You must be knowing about horseshoes. This is a very important thing. Clear? Horseshoes are almost in this U shape. It is marked with nails in between that was tied up with the toe of the horse. Clear? Horseshoes are considered to be sign of victory and auspicious. It's auspicious mark. In vehicles also. In front of vehicles you have horseshoes. Clear? And there's a very important myth associated with horseshoes. Clear? Horseshoes, if any person finds original horseshoes by chance, it is said all misery in his life is gone. Clear? They are considered to be signs of auspicious, highly auspicious in nature. And when you go to Europe and all, clear? Even Europeans use horseshoes. Europeans use horseshoes in the inverse direction, the front of the house. Clear? Because they believe any person who enters into the house, he will enter with auspicious thing. He will enter with the good vibes. Clear? When he will leave the house, he will leave the house with good vibes. Clear? This is always in inverse direction. In Indian houses or in Indian vehicles, we have horseshoes in this direction, whereby it indicate high sense of insecurity. Once good vibes has entered, it must not escape. Therefore, it is always in the U shape. Clear? So, Indian mythology says that horseshoes should be in this shape, whereby once good fortune has come, it may not pass away. It should be confined in this direction. In Europeans, it believes once it good vibes comes, it must enter the house in this way, it must pass away in this way. Clear? So, people coming and going should be coming and going with good vibes. They are considered to be highly auspicious in nature, and it is always considered to be sign of victory. Whole medieval history can be explained with these two things. Whole medieval history, I can tell you. Professor Muhammad Habib has a different book in which he has explained the whole medieval history with these two things. The whole thing got divided by iron stirrup and horseshoes. Clear? Because whenever Central Asian warriors came, most of that time they were victorious. Why they were victorious? Not because of bravery and courage. They were victorious because of much later in India, when Turks established the rule, in India also they began to use iron stirrup and horses. That is why they were able to establish large cavalry force. Cavalry cannot be established efficiently until its quality horses are imported, and accompanied with quality horses, these two technological devices must be there. Clear? Iron stirrup is very important because it acts as a balancing mechanism for horsemen. Not only this, the Turkish warriors were so much capable and so much balanced in the horseshoes that they even had the capacity to throw or to fire barrows even back also. Clear? Back, front, in different directions, because they got perfectly balanced on quality horses. So, speed and rapidity was marked by fatal or lethal attack also. All these combat facilities enabled the Turks to gain easy victories in India. Clear? So, they became victorious not because of bravery and courage. Rajputs were equally brave and courage. It was because of iron stirrup and horseshoes. Socio-economic factors obviously were there, because we all know that these systems existed in India that enabled the Turks to follow unity of command, unity of direction, which could not be followed in India, that led to defeat of static forces in India. Factors behind Gorian success. Clear? Right, introduction first. Clear? Right. Right. The Gorian success in India, Ghurin, the Gorian success in India has been a matter of discussion, among historians and scholars, which led to a definite trend of historiography. Clear? Right. The first thesis given to explain the factors behind Gorian success. Gorian success was by Jadunath Sarkar, Jadunath, was by Jadunath Sarkar. Clear? Right. According to this scholar, the main factor behind Gorian success, was was, right within inverted comma, the will of God, was the will of God. Clear? Right? The Turkish warriors, warriors pursued the divine duty, to propagate Islam, by conquering territory as well as the people. Will of God as well as the people. Change paragraph. That since the adventure was marked by divine duty, it was also accompanied by zeal, enthusiasm, and commitment. Later on, we'll use a word for this. That word is jihad. Clear? But jihad is wrongly interpreted. We'll come to that word. Zeal, enthusiasm, and commitment. Clear? Right? This enabled the Turkish warriors. To emerge victorious as they gave their best. Clear? These factors are from the perspective of the Turks. Change paragraph. Right? Jadoo na sarkar. Emphasize. Certain factors. From the perspective of the Rajput warriors. Clear? Right. The Rajput clans fought against each other due to mutual jealousy and distrust. Which led to their gradual weakening. We will ask this question only. Gradual weakening. The right example also. For instance, Gahadwala Rajput Jaichand did not support Prithviraj Chauhan in the second battle of Tarain. Clear? Tarain. Change paragraph. Another factor, right? Moreover, Jadoo na Sarkar even consider the addiction to wine by the Rajput warriors the addiction to wine by the Rajput warriors as a major factor for the defeat, as a major factor for their defeat. Clear? Right, the consumption of wine, affected the commitment of the Rajput warriors. On the one hand, and they failed to withstand the ultra zeal and enthusiasm of Turks. Full commitment of the Turks. Clear? Change paragraph. Right. In historiography, the arguments of Jaduna Sarkar, is accepted partially. It is not denied also completely. Is accepted partially. Partially due to several reasons. Now just try to understand these reasons. Right, point wise, several reasons. Clear? Right. If Turks were motivated by the will of God, comma, even Rajputs came into origin as a divine act, cannot be denied, as a divine act to defend and rule over India. That's the logic of Rajputs, to defend and rule over India. That was the concept of Rashid, who organized fire pit. First factor, right? Second, clear? Right. If there was ultra zeal and enthusiasm among the Turks, same intensity cannot be ruled out among the Rajputs, which was clearly exhibited in the first battle of the Rhine. Battle of the Rhine. Clear? Right, third one. Clear? Right. The consumption of wine was a routine act among all the warriors. Even Turks were addicted. Among all the warriors, including the Turks, that cannot be taken as a serious reason, behind Gorian success. Turks were also addicted to wine. Babur came with large wine jars to India. Clear? Wine. Clear? Right. Next paragraph. Right. The reasons behind the Gorian success, the reasons behind the Gorian success has been explained with in-depth analysis, has been explained by in-depth analysis by the Marxist historian, Professor Muhammad Habib. Professor Muhammad Habib. Clear? Right. According to this scholar, the whole set of factors can be broadly classified. The whole set of factors can be broadly classified into two categories. Right point wise. Number one, two categories. The socio-economic factors, Second, the scientific and technological factors. Clear? Write the explanation now. Next paragraph. According to Professor Muhammad Habib, clear, Indian society was clearly stratified, in which Kshatriyas were supposed to fight battles or war. Clear? Right. Even in the battlefield, Kshatriyas had to look after the basic needs and amenities by themselves. Look after the basic needs and amenities. Themselves. They could not take any assistance. Clear? Right. From fetching up of water, till disposing of the dead bodies, in the battleground, had to be done by the Kshatriyas. That diffused their attention from warfare. Attention from warfare. Very valid, change paragraph. Right. Economically, the most dominant system was feudal structure in India. Clear? Right. The central authority, including the Rajputs, remained to be dependent on feudal forces supplied by the Samantas, feudal forces supplied by the Samantas, Samantas, clear? Right, since forces came from different regions, there was lack of coordination, and they even refused to accept the command of a single person. They came from different feudal pockets of a single person. Okay? Right. In contrast, the Turkish forces demonstrated the principles of, right within inverted comma, principles of unity of command and unity of direction. Both demonstrated unity of command by one single person, unity of direction from one single head, command and unity of direction, that resulted into perfect coordination in the battleground, perfect coordination in the battleground. Clear? Socioeconomic factors. Change paragraph. According to Professor Muhammad Habib, scientific and technical factors gave a leading edge to the Turkish warriors. Right, first of all, they had quality horses. Which provided the desired swiftness and mobility. Clear? Right. Moreover, the horses were marked by horseshoes, that enabled them to run at desired pace. Irrespective of the terrain. TERRAIN. Irrespective of the terrain. Clear? Right. The Turks also invented the equipment of iron stirrup, foothold of iron stirrup, whereby they could balance themselves properly. On running horses. Clear? Right. With iron stirrup, both acceleration as well as deceleration, both acceleration as well as deceleration could be done according to exigencies, required method, according to exigencies in the battlefield. It's a very important thing. Battlefield. Gearing could be done easily. Battlefield. Clear? Change paragraph. Right. All these factors combined together, resulted into the Gorian success, and the establishment of the Turkish rule in India. Clear? Factors are clear. These are factors that are clear. Even the perspective of Jaduna Sarkar can be asked. Normally you will get the perspective of Professor Mohammad Nabi, which is largely accepted. Clear? These were the factors. Directly topic mentioned, factors behind Gorian success. Now we'll move on to another topic, that is consequences of Gorian success. Clear? Economic consequences, social consequences, cultural consequences. Clear? We'll look into consequences of Gorian success in India. Clear? We'll start with this topic in the next class. Clear? Next class means day after tomorrow. Clear? Tomorrow we cannot have class because of Gandhi Jayanti. Clear? So we'll start day after tomorrow. Clear? Meanwhile, clear? Today we need to discuss the previous year questions of topic number 12, 13 and 14. 11 and 12 I have discussed already. Any one of you got extra sheet? I have. Take it from me. आप लोग share please. Pass this. Just share it. I'll give you. Clear? Okay, so topic number 11 and 12 we discussed. Before we start discussing, I'll let you know, we had made it very clear, on Sunday you will have full length test on 11, 12, 13 and 14, 3 hours test. You will have almost 8 questions. 8 questions means 24 questions. Clear? 8 questions, you have to write 5 questions. Clear? Okay, and no map entries. Map entries we had done with. Clear? We'll have map entries in the revision test on ancient India. Clear? So, first question. Do the evidence of land ownership at our disposal support the theory of the prevalence of feudalism in early medieval India? Clear? All land grant charters starting from the Gupta period, Harshvardhan, the Sonipat plate inscription, all these indicate that feudal levies were there because even salaries began to pay in form of land grants. Large number of charters are there starting from Gupta period. How could the local self-government under the Cholas adjust with their centralized administrative structure? We have given you exact answer. Clear? It is the beauty of the Cholas that they gave autonomy to the village administration in the large scale or structure of centralized bureaucratic system. That is why we call Cholas to be empire builders. It is directly written in the notes. Clear? Next is, analyze the significance of the Uttara Meru inscription of the Chola king Prantaka first. Military conquest also Madurai Konda, and then all the classification mentioned with respect to local self-government. Parantaka first, Uttara Meru inscription. Explain the ingredients of the transitory nature of the early medieval India. Land grants, feudalism, even sculpture also, architecture, temple construction, even smaller kingdoms like Palas, Pratyaras, Rashkutas, all these are transitory. The most important being land grants. Clear? Critically analyze the changing nature of caste and gender relations during the early medieval period. Caste and gender. Clear? Caste because of feudalism again, because we had discussed that within Brahmins also large number of people began to perform agriculture, priestly activities, business activities, and that resulted to the identification of them on the basis of caste or occupation. Similar happened with Varnas, Vaishyas also, Kshatriyas also, and even Shudras as well. Changing nature because of feudal structure that we had elaborately discussed. Along with gender, we had discussed about position of women in early medieval India. The position of women was quite different in northern part of India, quite distinct in southern part of India. Reasons also, northern part of India feudalism, dependency on agriculture, southern part of India dependent on trade under the Cholas. Next is, doubtless it was not a free state. It was in any rate a state. K. Nilkant Shastri. Reflect upon the nature of local self-government institutions in the Chola country. It is again with respect to reconciliation with the centralized system. That is the beauty of the Cholas. They reconciled the autonomy of the local self-government with centralized bureaucratic system. K. Nilkant Shastri, we had discussed, the greatest authority on South Indian history. Clear? How did the temples of South India as financial institutions have deep impact on the social institutions of early medieval India? You can write, even Devdasi system you will write. Clear? All these were basically huge impact because temples became center of all activities due to large funding, Devdan. Clear? Next is, how did the temples of South India's financial institution have deep impact on the social institution of early medieval India? You have to mention that it had deep impact only in the southern part of India, not in the northern part of India. And moreover, so even though it had deep impact on social impact whereby improvisation of the condition of women took place, society largely remained to be patriarchal in nature because male-dominated society, the warriors were society. So critical comment, you have to write one paragraph. Clear? Next is, comment on the veracity of Al-Biruni's account on Indian society, authenticity of Al-Biruni's account. Clear? The Advait doctrine of Shankara cut at the very root of Bhaktivad because he advocated Gyanma. Clear? That is to attain knowledge, not only to show devotion. Attain knowledge that the creator and the created beings are one and the same thing. It's non-monism, non-dualism. It's monism and non-dualism. The 11th and 12th century CE saw eventful progression in the cultural history of India. We had started with this topic only because culturally we need to understand temples, then sculpture art, at the same time other important literary activities, even cultural activities include development with respect to mathematics like Lilavati's work, Bhaskar's Lilavati and even Adbhut Sagar. We had discussed all those works related to culture. Just because of this only we contend that it was not a dark age as claimed by European scholars. Do you consider the Rashtarangani of Kalhan to be a reliable source of the political history of Kashmir? Why? You have to give assessment also. One drawback also, and the drawback is related to Ashok conquest of Kashmir. As Kalhan mentioned that he was the ruler of Srinagar. Otherwise, you have to mention that it is written in perfect chronology. It can be accepted as authentic source for political history of Kashmir. Next is, and you have to mention all the four Rashtaranganis. First, Dutiya, Tritiya and Chaturth. Next is, there is a statement slok given at this time and within slok there is account for the emergence of bhakti in Dravid days, last year only. Clear? You have to start what were the factors that led to the emergence of bhakti, complete devotion towards God because only two gods worshipped in southern part of India, Lord Shiva and Vishnu, and that began to be worshipped with complete devotion by Allovars and Nayanars, which was intellectually defended by Shankaracharya and Ramanuj, since it provided a fertile ground. At this point in southern part of India, Bhakti started in the 8th century in southern part, later to become popular in northern part of India. And the question that was asked this year, assess the statement that philosophy of Shankaracharya revolutionized religious thoughts in India. Clear? If Atma and Paramatma is same, it has revolutionized every concept in India of universal brotherhood and all problems to be solved in contemporary times also. Clear? It has considered to be a revolutionary thinking. Vedanta philosophy, we had discussed. So, based on these four topics, we'll have full length test on Sunday 11, 12, 13 and 14 comprehensively. Clear? And tomorrow we'll take a break. From day after tomorrow we'll start with the same topic. We'll start with consequences of Gurian conquest of India. Clear? Economic, social and cultural. Is it fine? Clear? Thank you.